time has finally come for those on the left to stand and admit the absolute screaming nightmare their side of the political discourse has become. Slam away all you want at Republicans. But now we have talk of chair-throwing, blame-tossing, profanity-laced discourses from this moment forward right onto the left convention floor. A case can be made to ask Democrats today, hey, how's it feel to be just as dysfunctional, kids? That word dysfunctional, look it up in the current dictionary. See a picture of Hillary Clinton trying to figure out the black hole of defeat she seems to be falling into. Sure, she wins a primary here and there, leads Bernie Sanders in delegates, but even Democrats believe voting for her is akin to being swallowed whole by a blood-sucking virus. Oh, and speaking of bloodsuckers, here's something Congress and a president should be involved in every day: stopping the growing and despicable scams being perpetrated on our former soldiers. A new one coming from someone who works in the VA system. Work for the chance to be heard on this program. Your phone calls, comments, dissertations, and rambles, where we dare you to stay on target. I'm Ed Berliner. Think of me as a ringmaster. We'll do just fine. This is The Hardline for Wednesday, May 18th, 2016.
If the Democratic Party wants to be certain that Donald Trump is defeated, and that we must do, we together are the campaign to do that.
It is critical that we as candidates, we as Democratic Party leaders, everyone involved needs to make sure that we can take all the steps that we need to ensure that the process it not only runs smoothly, but that the response from the supporters of both candidates is appropriate and civil.
As if the intelligent in the audience needed to be reminded, and we believe they don't because we seek to curry favor only with the smart and dispose with the cliche-ridden hacks. We are in the midst, smack dab in the middle, of a political revolution America has not seen since the instant a band of lobsterbacks, or British soldiers as they were known in 1775, swapped bullets and death with militias comprised mostly of men who had zero experience as soldiers at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. This time we have thankfully not heard gunfire. Instead, plenty of shooting off of the gaping maw from candidates, their bullet necklace-wearing mouthpieces, and slack-jawed phony pundits who spit out falsehoods and opinions as fact, knowing full well there's a large portion of this country that will fall for it hook, line, and salacious sinker. Democrats have been for weeks and months joyfully jiggling their jaws in mocking marvel at what's happening over on the Republican side. A Democrat turned Republican businessman who has overwhelmed the political system with his brand of populism and promises. Exactly what a bedraggled electorate wants to hear after decades of being blustered and bullied into submission. But those Democrats need to snap the lip trap and realize they are right there on the edge of being more a disruptive revolutionary cauldron than anything Republicans could think of. For they have as their choice to become the leader of the free world, a career socialist who has never held a consistent job in his life, hijacking their sweet little liberal world, and a presumptive frontrunner who is viewed with greater contempt and disdain by a growing number of her assigned acolytes than fans of the Miami Heat view LeBron James and his grab for a title back in Cleveland. Hey, bonus points for those who get the reference. Believe me, it fits. So then, what are the mighty and dismissive liberals to do? And are they about to hand this election to Donald Trump no matter how they try to spin the big wheel of pending disaster? Oh yeah, let us begin. He is the veteran Democratic strategist and political speechwriter at Catamount Strategies, Christian Hanley. Balanced with the veteran journalist and senior contributor at the Federalist, D.C. McAllister. Thank you both for joining us. Christian, here you go first. What happened in Nevada last weekend was disgusting. You have people who go for Bernie Sanders throwing chairs. They are basically threatening people out there in power. They're claiming this rigged system. Here we go again. And there's a thinking that they're going to be actually violent at this summer's national convention in Philadelphia. Christian, the Democrats are just as screwed up as the Republicans, maybe even more. Don't they have to finally come to grips with it and realize dysfunctionality, it lives on the left as well?
There's certainly dysfunctionality, Ed, and I got to say, the past few days have been very disappointing since Nevada. It's been a disappointing few days, but that being said, there's dysfunction but it's not at the same level as Trump. I mean, that's a completely false parallel. Look, there are deep divisions right now that are being worked out during the primary process. It's difficult to watch. What happened in Nevada is absolutely reprehensible and should not be repeated.
But why did it happen, though, if the Democrats have such great control, though, Christian, if they are the people who always seemingly say to people, we're the adults in the room, how did this happen in the first place? And, oh, yeah, by the way, Debbie Wasserman Schultz maybe has a point for the first time in her life that Republicans can actually look at when she goes to Bernie Sanders and say, you need to get on top of this. The Democrats were screaming at Donald Trump when there was violence at his rallies. Make sure that you get in there and stop it. Bernie Sanders didn't do anything to stop it. So when you say that it's not just as bad, come on, Christian, let's be honest. It might not be at the same level, but it sure as heck is approaching it.
I wouldn't even say it's approaching, Ed. There was about 100 people involved in Nevada's upset the other night, so it's not nearly on the same scale. As for Bernie's reaction, would I have wished for a stronger reaction from the candidate? Absolutely, but he couldn't have stopped it himself. He wasn't in Nevada, in Las Vegas, at the Paris Hotel in person. It wouldn't have been possible. As for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I mean, her problem is that, look, she's one of the most divisive people on the left right now, so her speaking to Senator Sanders in that tone only stokes the fire, stokes the embers even more. She is detested by Bernie supporters who see her as rigging the game in favor of her friend Hillary Clinton.
Look, let's be honest here, Christian. Quite frankly, there's a lot of people on the left who detest Debbie Wasserman Schultz as well, who feel like she's part of the problem. Let me get to you in here, D.C. I want to bring this in. Hillary Clinton wins in Kentucky, but I think Politico nailed it. This is a joyless victory as far as she's concerned. She may still be leading, but let's be honest here. People can't stand her. Democrats can't stand her. So, D.C., is it possible that as we see chair-throwing and violent potential coming to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, the Dems are working right into the hands of Donald Trump and everything the RNC wants? They're loving this right now because what they're doing may just as well hand this election to Donald Trump.
Oh, it definitely gives fire to Donald Trump. But I do want to make a point about the left being violent and that, this can't be compared. Actually, it was the left who showed up at the Donald Trump rallies, if you remember. It were people rallied around by the left, by Bernie Sanders supporters. So I wouldn't blame all the violence that was going on at Donald Trump rallies. It's just on Donald Trump supporters. There were a whole lot of people from the Sanders community there. So this is not surprising that this is happening at the Sanders convention. So, I mean, this is something that he's going to have to deal with. He's going to have to come out strong and actually condemn the violence, or else it's going to go to the convention. And he'll be responsible for that. I mean, I know he wasn't there in Nevada, but he can make a statement and have a lot to say to his own supporters to stop the violence. But they do hate the establishment. Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Clinton are part of that. And this victory in Kentucky was not much of one, because when she went against Barack Obama, she beat him by a lot more than even now with Bernie Sanders. So she's taking definitely the downward turn, like what you said, a black hole. She seems to be spiraling downward.
But here's something else. In D.C., I want you to comment on this, because this is an opinion that I have had said to me many times, and quite frankly, as somebody who's covered news for a long time and politics as well, I see this also. We always talk about the fact that the public is angry. How did this start? Where did this anger come from? Okay, let me answer it and get your opinion on this. Quite frankly, it's the voters who keep putting these liars and frauds and freaks in office constantly instead of doing our own due diligence sometimes. We're the ones who need to take responsibility for this sometimes. And maybe it's us that needs to also look at ourselves and say, do a better job voting. Do a better job looking at the people that you want to put in office, and maybe we wouldn't be here today at a revolution. How am I doing?
I think that's partially true, but the fact of the matter is that we have put people in office who made promises to us to make change. And they go to Washington, they get corrupted by the system, they make friends with people across the aisle instead of actually standing for the voters that they sent them there to do, the jobs that they sent them there to do, and they turn on the voters. So that is happening as well. So I think the people are both, wanting people to stand up, frustrated with the system as it is, and also they are responsible for putting some people back there repeatedly. And I mean, that needs to stop. We need to own that responsibility. And I think people are doing that now. They're looking to outsiders. I mean, that's one thing that we're seeing in this election. We may not like their choices, but they are kind of standing up and saying, okay, we're kind of done with the lying from politicians. We want to make a change, and so we're going for outsider candidates.
I'll give you that. At this point, let's try something. If it hasn't worked in the past, let's try something here. Let's get to some of the news here. Donald Trump has unveiled 11 potential Supreme Court nominees. Here's one of the things, though, that catches everybody, because one of the judges on Donald Trump's list, the short list, Don Willett, he tweeted some things. He tweeted anti-Trump stuff in the past. He's in the lower left there, lower right on your screen there from Texas. Can't wait till Trump rips off his face Mission Impossible style and reveals a laughing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And also, we'll rebuild the Death Star. It'll be amazing, believe me, and the rebels will pay for it. From the left, Christian, when you see something like this, do you think there's going to be a lot of credibility here when it comes down to what he wants for a Supreme Court justice? Is this going to be attackable for the left?
Attackable, perhaps. I think really what it was on the part of Donald Trump, like most things, was a PR stunt. It was an attempt to feign a pivot towards the more presidential. He's trying to show that he can be a true leader and not just a rabble-rouser. And this is his attempt at coming up with a definite plan for the future, i.e. a Supreme Court nomination. But it definitely was not thought through if he has somebody on there who was already tweeting negative things about him to begin with.
Now, D.C., does it tell you that maybe, and again, let's be fair here, does it tell you that Donald Trump put this list out here? He talked to the Heritage Foundation. Do you get the sense that this is really his list, or this is one handed him by the Heritage Foundation, and he is, as Christian put it, just putting it out there to seem presidential?
Well, I don't think it matters where it came from. The fact is that he did do it. And the fact that he's put someone on there who is not a supporter of him shows that he's actually reaching across the aisle. He's trying to bring in unification with people who don't support him, who don't agree with him. And the Heritage Foundation is a very conservative institution. They're part of the establishment in a way. So having them be at the front of this is great for building bridges when you want to bring in conservatives and more establishment types to support you. So if you only put people on the list that were big rah, rah, rah Donald Trump fans, that wouldn't really build the bridges that he's wanting to do. The question will be, will he hold to the list when it actually comes to the nomination process when he becomes president? There
we go. Quick hit from both of you, 15 seconds. Mitt Romney has said he is not going to be a third-party candidate. He has stopped his recruiting efforts to go for a third party. D.C., 15 seconds, react.
Good. He needs to stop it. We need to stop talking about the third party. There needs to be a strong coalition of conservatives moving forward, but this isn't the time for a third party, in my opinion. Not from the establishment, especially.
Christian, 15 to you.
I wish he would. Look, it would cut Donald Trump's chances of winning and give the right some sort of shred of credibility in this cycle.
I knew you would say that. D.C. knew you would say that. Thank you. You held right where we thought your game would be, as always. But it's a perfect thing to talk about, at least from the left side of things. D.C. McAllister, Christian Hanley, thank you both for joining us. We appreciate your time. Your phone calls are next at 1-877-Newsmax. We set a higher bar than the other shows who allow the rim jobs of the world to spout and spew whatever they want. 1-877-Newsmax. We're going to see what you got. We're going to discuss all this and focus on whether a gossip website that made its name on bad blind dates and cat videos should be so concerning when it comes to censorship. Facebook is firing back. They're bringing in people right now talking about whether or not they actually do censor what is said on the right. Plus, your discussion as to what's going on here with regard to putting these people in office, Donald Trump's ideas, so much more. 1-877-Newsmax. Let's see what you got. I keep saying it. Prove it on the Hard Line.